Hey, welcome back. So we are here with another tutorial from Andy and Becky Ourant of the Village Doll Shop in Pennsylvania, and they are showing us how to loop string an all bisque doll. This is something that all doll collectors and lovers need to know. It's great knowledge, it works, and they are so good at what they do. So thank you so much, Andy and Becky, for always sharing your knowledge and all of everything that you do. You have such a great collection. You know so much about dolls, so much about repairing dolls. You two are so talented and we are so lucky to have you. So Andy and Becky, take us away.
Welcome back, Virtual Doll Convention. We're back here in the shop for part 2 of our all bisque stringing tutorial. We are going to do loop stringing this time around. So we covered a lot of the parts and everything the last time. And like we said in our last video, we are not on Facebook, so if you have any questions or comments, you can reach us through our Ruby Lane shop, which is called Becky's Back Room, or you can email us at ourant@me.com. So we put out a couple things that you're going to run into a lot. Loop stringing, as you can see, we call it that because instead of having the wooden pegs, the doll companies, by closer to the turn of the 20th century, they started putting these integral loops into the parts. And it makes it a lot easier for people who have to put these things back together and repair. It shows that their mold making got more sophisticated because they put the time into the work to create these loops in the molds. So in the last video, I used the size 1, and that is going to be sufficient for most all bisques. But when they get to this large size, you want to move up because this amount of elastic can't support this much weight. So I am using the next size up. This is Doll's Parts number 2. You use a little bit more tension and more strength to hold the parts up.
Oh, I have an idea.
But with the larger size, you're dealing with more material, and it's not as easy all the time. What's your idea, honey?
Well, the reason I chose this particular doll was, again, just sort of a tutorial. Remember I mentioned last time about people asking if their parts are correct with their all bisque? Don't put that in yet.
Okay.
Turn her around.
Okay.
Look at her mark. See, they marked them at this point.
So
the earlier ones weren't marked.
It's marked 208, and then it's marked with the size
turn it
number
over my
10.
way, so. There you go. Get your
Is
finger.
that 205?
5 maybe? I don't know.
But you see the size number right there, 10.
Yes. So, voila. Why don't we dig around and see?
Look right there, size 10.
Okay, now show me.
It's probably going to be under the kid in the legs. So if the kid wasn't there, this is
Lift it up. I think I already pre-planned this. Whoops.
lifted up where?
Right there. I think I pre-planned this.
Well, I'm glad somebody does some planning. There it is, size 10.
See? So this is a good way. Now the earlier dolls, you really have to use your spidey senses to see if the color matches and the shape and such. But
You can
the later dolls are all marked for you.
Also, a difference with this loop strung is now they have this socket area. The peg ones were flat.
Can you bring her up right here?
So now they have this socket area for the bisque to fit in. This was not lined from the factory, so I don't line them. The legs usually do have some kid on them.
Yeah.
It depends on the doll. So,
And the company. Some of the less expensive companies did not bother.
So you can eyeball it and run this through, or you can use what we called in the last video a fish. It's a little wire. And some all bisques like this, you would do a continuous stringing inside. We'll show you that in the next one we're going to do. But in this one, because it's not a socket head, you don't have to worry about stringing the head. I just like to do arm to arm and leg to leg. Sometimes it depends on the doll. You might have to do something different. Like I said, there's no hard and fast rule.
So there's no pegs involved with this. There's no glue.
Nope.
There's no glue.
No.
Look at our table now since we cleaned up from the last one. Look at this. It's almost nothing.
We apply the tension, hold it with the hemostat,
So this is sort of along the same kind of principle of stringing like a ginny or something, like a
Yep.
strung ginny.
But a lot of times the 50s dolls use those rubber bands.
Oh, that's right.
And
But I
not
was just
elastic.
thinking, it was just legs. The less pieces, the easier it is.
I didn't check this to see if it would go through the whole.
Uh-oh.
Sometimes the string.
This is why we don't rehearse.
Mm-hmm. Let me see if I can run it through here. Sometimes if you have a clean edge, it's a lot easier to get through than one that's frayed. Tell a joke, Becky.
I was just going to do the Jeopardy music. Da, 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 da.
We can edit this part out.
No, we're not.
Well, when I run into this problem,
I love it.
I can push it through with the needle.
Don't congratulate yourself too much.
Thought I picked an easy one, huh?
I picked these out.
Mm-hmm.
I chose to surprise you.
Yeah. Well, every doll is a new challenge. Let's try from the other way.
I could give people a quick tour around the shop while you do that. Hey, wait a minute. It's moving.
Oh,
Oops.
I almost hit you with that.
Yeah, dum, dum,
Okay, I got it.
dum.
I'm ready for you.
Oh, hang on. I was just showing the shop.
Now, you have a couple choices. You can, for larger dolls, I use hog ties, which is a whole nother video. For this, with the size and everything, all bisques, I usually just tie knots.
Okay.
You can, if you want, you could sew that joint together. I like tying knots on these. Now, I'm not really into it on larger things, but for this, and I pull it tight enough that the tension locks in that first part of the knot, and then I seal in that so it doesn't pull away.
Were you a Boy Scout?
No, actually, it wasn't.
Huh.
And then you got to pull it tight enough. You only need to do the 2 ties, because that one, and just leave a little tail. Don't cut it too close, but the tension is pulling it together. Just ease it in there and make sure that it will hold a pose.
Sit her up, sit her up,
So-
stand her up, stand her up. There you go, see?
So I like to move the arms out of the way. Take a small piece of stringing, run it through the loop. Now this one you don't need a fish because it's so large. These dolls, I can put 5 of these together to every one peg string. Now we take our
I'll remember that.
and we apply tension. Now it's a short connection, so you're gonna need.
Oh, another thing you might want to mention is, well, this is complicated, but sometimes those loops are broken out.
Yes, and what I do, what I do when this loop is broken out is I build a piece of epoxy in there,
Hand moldable.
and moldable epoxy, and then I will drill a hole through the moldable epoxy, or sometimes when I'm applying it, I will apply it over a little wooden dowel to create the hole and to pull the dowel out before it dries.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Basically what I'm saying is all is not lost if that.
and the
Hook
epoxy
is
can
gone.
be sanded and shaped so it looks good.
Right, but what I was thinking is a lot of people think it's, I mean, that's an internal damage, so it's not really
I mean,
a
it's
huge
something
deal.
that we always declare,
Right.
but
I want to make sure that people realize that it's not that big of a deal, that it can be easily fixed.
and it happens a lot on the next one, like bilos, you see a lot of loops pulled out.
Right. I'm just thinking of things that randomly get asked me.
So first knot, second knot. Trim.
Well, wasn't that simple?
Then at this point, it would go back to Becky, and she has to get the wigs on it and the clothes. So we remove the hemostat, get our tails inside,
Ta-da! Well, I have a little surprise for you.
What's that?
Well, when I was just looking in my drawers over here, I found an all bisque
great.
that needed stringing. So you don't know anything about this. But
I'm
now
doing this cold?
You're doing it cold, and you're going to take it apart too, which is a part of it.
All right.
So I thought
So I like to
you made the mistake of going upstairs.
take everything I need off of it, put it in one area.
I want to get in on
We always
this.
lose a lot of parts. Here, I'll turn it towards you.
Yeah. We don't lose anything. What are you talking about?
No, on my workbench sometimes. So
Oh,
I try to
that's
keep it all in one area.
I'm very, very organized.
See, this is the way they usually come to me. They're
Right.
loose. Now this is not factory stringing. This is somebody has put this together, and over time, it just gets looser. And they probably didn't string it tight enough when they originally did it. Probably needed hemostats. So we just cut it, and they did this in one piece, so everything was connected. And so we'll put it back together that way.
Okay.
So this is small enough to use size 1. I get enough stringing. I don't want to have to.
I wanted to see how good you were on the fly.
Watch. And we'll see. I'm not making any promises. But the loops look good. Pull this whole piece.
Well, after I looked over what you had to do, I thought it was too easy.
So this is interesting. So instead of going arm to arm and leg to leg, which we could do with this, we're going to do it in one piece. So
That is weird. I don't even understand how that's possible.
So what you do is you start the one arm, you put the next piece to where I can see it. I take a hemostat.
You're not going to use your fish?
No, I grab it, I pull it out of the leg hole now, and then I go and I do the next arm, leave that be. Make sure I have enough material. Run it back
Okay.
into the torso. And there it is. I can grab my hemostat.
Here we go.
Grab it.
There you go. Wow. Now what are you going to do?
So I get it tight. So I start adding tension now. Use this hemostat. So I got one side. You can see that this is tight and this is loose.
Mm-hmm.
So as I pull the tension on, so what I do now is I've got 2 hemostats on.
This is like quite an operation.
I like to work these out of the way here. Ooh. They're just gonna have to stay underneath. I'll be gentle. So you run through, and it does matter which way you go. I try to get it so that it doesn't bind, so I'm making a continuous loop into the 4 loops that are inside the body. So I went in the other direction, it might twist it. So I follow the same
Continuous path. Sort of.
path. So now, just come back through.
This looks crazy. You realize that?
And then we relieve the tension on that side, and then put it back on, pull the tension through, and now you got 2 hemostats out of 1 hole.
Why do you want to?
Because you're holding both ends.
Oh.
And so now the loop goes back through this way. I'm doing it upside down. Here we go.
Well, you're stringing everything upside down. If you really think about it.
I usually have them facing me. So I get it close to the hemostats. Both of them have the tension through the whole thing. One knot, then lock it in with a second. You don't need a third.
This is so cool. Look at that.
So, cut the tails. One at a time. Take one out, take the next one out. Then I get this in the hole. And then I take this tail. I gotta get it in there. I'm gonna face it towards me. It is doing.
You actually. What? It's doing what? Is it snapping around?
See how it's flexing one way?
Yeah. So what are you gonna do?
Sometimes if you just twist them. Oop. Go the other way. I got a kicker. Didn't know this was good. Thanks, Becky. All right.
She's a prayer. She's praying you don't break her.
At this point, I would normally.
What did you do?
Well, this is the way I was doing it because they had it that way. I would just go back, I'd cut it, and I'd do arms to arms, legs to legs. So I would redo that. But it's good to know.
Well, here's an
it's good to show
example.
you.
Go ahead.
Well, we don't have, I have one more to do. So do you want me to redo this?
Well, I think it's wrong.
No, I definitely think it's
must
wrong.
be redone.
Because really, it's not. You can't play with it well. So this is the problems I run into. I know I'm gonna fix it.
Yeah.
This is the problems I run into all the time. And on a lot of dolls that would work, but on this one,
I don't think it's really a good idea ever. I don't think it worked with that. I actually think that's
almost
why
all babies are constructed that way.
Well, yeah, that's fine. But I'm talking about this type of doll. I think that's why she was loosely strung.
Yeah.
Because it was strung wrong, and they didn't pull it tight because it wasn't going to work. So maybe this was a cautionary tale.
Well, I'm glad it happens this way because it shows you that it doesn't always work, and you have to engineer these things to work properly. I mean, we could have just left it that way, and then it's hard to play with, hard to dress.
Well, I think that's what somebody else had done with her. That's why she was sitting in my case wrong. I just bought her and
I usually try to
put her
get
out.
both of them through at the same time, but
She hadn't made it through your workshop yet because we're no longer open, so it doesn't matter.
all right. So make sure it's in the right spot. I always have to look at them and say, right arm, left arm, did I get them correct? Add the tension. So I want to go through this one.
See, I think it's always just as good to show what not to do as what to do. So
Like heebie-sheebies, the only way to get the correct tension on a heebie-sheebie owl bisque is to run from the one loop from this arm to this leg, and one from here to here, two pieces.
do you want me to go get one for you?
No. And if you try it this way, it doesn't work. If you try it, doing a full loop, it doesn't work. It works best from this way to this way. And how did I figure that out? I took an original apart and saw that.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
What's happened here is I just want to work the knot on the very top of the loop.
Into the bisque.
It was
body.
sitting offset,
But
and by getting it on the top.
But don't you think this is pretty good now to show? Okay.
But by small adjustments, by getting that knot on the very top of the loop, it fit into the socket better. You're dealing with very small all bisque dolls. Now the leg. See how much better that is?
Well, I know. The other way, it was like she was clasped. Her hands were like, they wouldn't move apart. That's what it was. See, I was afraid if I didn't ask you to do this, she'd get left this way. And then she wouldn't get strung quite quick.
There you can see See that opening is sort of rough? That's just how it was made.
Pulled out of the mold.
It's not damaged. Check my tension on this doll. I'm actually pulling it almost as tight as possible because it's a very short span between legs. And if the loops look like they're in good condition, I don't have any problem with that. And once you take the tension off with the hemostat, it loosens up a little bit. But while you're stringing it, you want to start with full tension there.
Cool. Look at that. That didn't take long.
Yeah.
Don't you feel better?
Oh, wonderful. I'll sleep better tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Bilos, they usually have this flange neck. Well, they always have this flange right here. And a lot of times this kid is missing. I've went in yesterday and I put this band in here. Just kid leather. If you watch the other video, that's easy. Now, this is how Bilos are strung from the factory. They have these wires. I like to tie my stringing right to this and then put it in. I don't want to put a hook on there or anything. I start here. So what I do is I take number 1 stringing size, get enough of that. I will tie this.
You tie this one as opposed to looping it.
Yep.
That's the other
Yep.
one. All right.
And the reason why I tie it on, and I want to get it even on both sides, is that it's pulling the tension from the head. Tie it, pull it tight.
Okay.
You're going to be having the tension run through the body. And instead of it just being looped over and putting it in there, it's going to have a strength point from each side.
Sort of evens it out.
Yeah. So it's very easy. I make sure that she is in the sleep position.
Could you show the neck socket? A lot of people think they're broken.
They're made with
this way.
with this slope. See that flange? The flange does not run completely around the back, and that's the way they're all Bisque Bilos are made.
So they're not broken if they're open,
Nope.
sort of slope back.
So you work this in.
It was probably to make that go in, wasn't it? It was to make you be able to put that bar in.
No, not for this. I could have fished that in
right.
regardless. But the reason why it is in that U shape
That's what I was wondering.
is because of the weight of the eyes. It allows it to sleep.
Oh, okay.
If you didn't have that shape,
oh, I got it.
see how it hangs down just a little bit?
Yep.
So a lot of times
So if
those
you
are
had a
missing.
bar-
I make them out of wire, and I just make a U-shaped or V-shaped wire and adjust
Hey.
it until it fits in there like
I actually did learn something today.
Yeah.
Never thought about that.
So I test before I put it together.
Make sure
I
it
test
sleeps.
that
Yeah.
it sleeps.
Yeah, because the earlier all bisques don't have sleep eyes when they have the bald heads. The ones like the mignonettes. So,
Now this one,
yes.
I will run.
Oh, you're not going to do what
all
you were
the way
going to.
through.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. See how this one turns out for you.
Well, you know what?
What?
I'm going to do it the way I normally do. I'll do arm to arm and just
Okay.
head to legs.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So I check the placement of that wire so it sleeps good well.
Okay.
I get the flange resting in the neck socket. Now at this point you've got to get tension on 2 at once.
Okay.
So what I do is I pull a little tight, but not very tight. Enough that I can hold them both at the same time. Put my finger on the torso.
Okay.
And I do one side. Then I grab another hemostat. I do the other side. And when you place the hemostats, you want to make sure that you stretch across the hole. If I did it at the tip, you're going to end up, it's going to get pulled in. You run it across enough that it creates
so
a bridge all the way across the opening.
Okay.
So now that I've got those two slightly loose or slightly on with a little tension, I start adding a little bit more tension. Now, almost 100%. I pull it, I can feel it tightening up. Now, you've got just what we did, I showed you before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put one through. See that?
Yep.
And because you're looping it, that tension is going from here to here and up. So all that tension pulls it together. If you just went 1 to 1, they have a tendency not to have the tension going this way also. Do you know what I mean?
No, but that's okay.
So
This is why you string dolls and I don't.
I like to pull it a little tight before I pull the hemostat out. I pull that out and then I immediately don't let loose.
This seems hard.
And I put the second hemostat on. So now I've got 2 again.
I thought this was going to be easy and it's not.
No. Well, this is what happens. This is how you put a bilo together, an all-bisque bilo.
I should have taken one with not a swivel neck. It would have been easier.
Well, I'm glad you did because people need to see. It's not really, it's really not that hard. You take your time. Yes, I've got 2 hemostats in there, but they're doing their job. I don't feel any pressure.
All right.
So
It's just when you were switching it around and stuff, it seemed complicated because it seemed like there was a moment.
it's tight, but it's just, being precise.
Right. It just seemed like a moment when maybe the elastic could pull back, and that's what I was worried about.
If you use the hemostats correctly, they're doing the work.
All right.
So I want to remove this one first.
Well, your lunch hooks are always.
Well, they're tiny dolls, and I got big sausage fingers. So now I test it to see if it'll sit.
Cute. Very cute.
And then, will it swivel well? Yes.
Nice.
Will it lay down?
It's so cute.
It holds a pose. So I test as I go. If it doesn't fit well, I redo it. Sometimes I've redone something 3 or 4 times until I get it right. Most of the time, after doing it so much, I don't have to redo my work. But so I loop on. Now, when I do this, sometimes you
There's a
can
little mark in the back.
see the stringing through the hole. It's
Yeah.
in the. If it's
I
in the
can see
way.
it in the way, yeah.
If you pull a head forward,
Uh-oh.
you can get more space.
Yikes.
But on this one, I just make sure it's out of the way. And which arm do I have? I'll show you. This way, you can either fish it, or one of the things I like to do is I just take my hemostat, I put it all the way through, I open it slightly,
Tricky.
I put both ends in the hemostat, clamp it,
Very
Hold it.
tricky.
and then
Cool.
you're not having to eyeball it or feed it.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Just pull it through. But you have to use every technique. Every doll is different.
Well, at least you never get bored.
Well,
What?
sometimes I'll do 15 or 20 all bisques in a row, and it's like, okay, I've had enough of this. Because it is very small work. And for those who sew, it's an advantage because you're used to tying knots and working with these small areas.
There you go.
Clip. I always leave a little tail. I do not clip right at the knot. Make sure they feed in. So.
Voila.
And now we're going to test it. Will it hold its arms up?
Yay.
So now that's an old Bisque Bilo.
Very good. Excellent.
You wanted to show them the mark?
Sure.
So there's the...
Set them up. There you go.
This is a size number, 6-12.
Yeah, we thought about it. The limbs are marked 12.
Well, right there you can see 20-12. So they're marked 12 also. And then the arms are marked 12 right there. So
Parts are right.
everything's correct. Want to back out?
Yep, this finishes,
you-
this concludes our,
I'll show you the 3 I've done today. So that's loop stringing. If you have questions, contact us. These are a lot easier than peg string. There's a lot less work. It's fun to get your dolls back together, be able to play with them. When they're loose, you know, you tend to just put them on a stand and leave them. But once you have them out, you can redress them, you can have fun with them. So.
and it wasn't that complicated. I could do those. I don't know that
I'm going to cut the stringing and you're going to do one. Okay?
You're right.
So thank you, Virtual Doll Convention. Thank you, Rachel. And I hope you enjoyed this how-to video. If you did, I hope you liked it. We'll try to do some more.
Let us know.
Say
Thanks.
goodbye, Becky.
Goodbye, Becky.
Thank you.
Bye.